to have Chris back with us. And I'm thankful to a whole bunch of you who yesterday came out and cut trees and dug things and did all. So if you didn't come and get, like sweat in your sweat on your body and stickers in your fingers, then say thank you to each other, would you? Tell me about some of those amazing places that you thought of in your prayer. Just name them out so we can hear them. Those spaces that lay to the north and south and east and west. What did you think of?
South Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else?
Glaciers.
Yeah.
Mount Lebanon.
Good.
Lake Ontario.
Woodruff, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
North Dakota.
This world is full of spaces, isn't it? And I love the term that somebody used once, that nature is a cathedral of God's presence. And you go there and you feel that presence radiating and invading. And it's an incredible thing, isn't it? And it does it in so many ways. Sometimes it's the trees that tower over top of us. And sometimes it's that simple little thing close at hand that shows that magnificence of God. But did you notice that not everything that was in that psalm was about nice stuff from nature? Did you notice the part that talked about things like lightning and hail, snow and rain, stormy wind, all fulfilling God's command? How many aren't always thankful for things like that? Yesterday at work day, I got a cholla thing right here. And I wasn't noticing the presence of God really easily. That might be right. And but all creation sings, and in that moment we lose that connection to it for some reason or another. And it's not easy to praise God. But the great naturalist John Muir said, it is always sunrise somewhere, and I think we could say it's always sunset somewhere. The dew is never dried all at once. A shower is forever falling. Vapor is ever rising. This week, this is my story at least, I stood out in a hurricane. I was back at East in Atlanta. And I was part of the Susan B. Komen Walk. Joni's family does this, and this is the first time I got to go with the rest of the family. There were 10 of us. 2 of us walked, and 8 of us worked on the team. And so my job, Joni's job, was to do things like, after we sent those walkers off on their 20 miles that day, that first day, we had to take all their suitcases and get them on a truck. Then get them off a truck once it got to the destination. We had to move things around. We had to set up tents. We had to have everything ready so that when they came home, there would be a place for them to be. Not the glamorous side of the walk. And when we got that all done, it was about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Then someone asked me and said, walkers will soon, some of them will soon be coming in. Will you go up and start greeting them and helping them to come in? And we were in this great big long building. It was about a 1/4 mile long. And they had to get through that whole building. And so I went up to the front, and first lady who came in, first walker, said, yeah, you got to go further out than this because I know how to get from here. I just follow the building. But over there, people are getting confused. I got confused. So I went out another 1/4 mile. And I stood on a corner there at the top of the last hill they had to walk up. And I watched them come in after walking more than 20 miles. And I said, good job. And none of them stopped to talk with me. For some reason, they wanted to get that last 1/2 mile. and it was okay for the first 2.5 hours because those were the pretty strong walkers and it wasn't raining. And then that hurricane hit. Right? And for that last 2.5 hours, I stood there in the rain, greeting these people who had walked through that rain. who struggled not just with the physicality of those 20 miles in their bodies, that had never done that, but also the force of nature that wasn't simple. Rowan Williams said, "We are all drawn almost irresistibly back towards this urge to manage. One of the most frequent ways in which this becomes visible is inattention. The failure to see what is truly there in front of you because your own vision is clouded by self-obsession or self-satisfaction." You see, I was doing all the stuff I was supposed to do. I was performing my duty. But as I stood on that corner and watched these walkers come in, my eyes began to open because I saw what was most important. It wasn't that I had the tent set up or that the bag was down from the truck. It's that these ladies and gentlemen were walking. They were doing something important, something meaningful, and I got to be a small piece of it. I was at a place, an event, a community where creation sang. And I could have missed it. But let me get back to that in a little bit. Because you see, creation means a whole lot more than that nature that is out there. Because I got a secret to tell you. You are part of creation. Remember that? That you are part of that creation that sings. And we hear the singing of part of that people creation really well. But how many know that there's a few people that you don't like to have sing to you so well? That some of the songs of creation, just like some of nature creation, sometimes stings and hurts and makes it hard for you to hear their song very well. You might not have noticed that that's particularly true in a time like this next 3 weeks leading up to an election. There's lots of things in that type of a space where we can easily find ways to separate and get angry at each other. Because you know what happens in an election year? People see and show and embrace a whole lot of ugly. And it's easier to see that ugly than to embrace the presence of God, the Creator, in them. But we say that the creation sings. All of the creation sings. And even that song that sounds a bit discordant is still God's song singing in them somehow. And whether the divide is a political one or an economic one or an environmental one, creation is singing in that other person. All creation sings. For years, every four years, I've been getting a pamphlet that's talking about, since I was an elementary school teacher, I still get it, it's talking about teaching the election. And this year, teaching the election is not a simple thing to do. And then in this pamphlet, it has several quotes from people, and I just wanted to read to you some of the discordant voices that are out there. From California, it said, "I have tried to reassure my students that no matter the outcome, they will be okay. I don't even know if that's true, but I can't have them worry and stress about it." And from Wisconsin, we read, "At the all-white school where I teach, dirty Mexican has become a common insult. Before the election season, it was never heard." From Washington State, "Students don't understand why this has become such an angry and dishonorable campaign. They are taught better behaviors by their teachers, and then they see this mess on TV and are confused. The rules for classroom discussions aren't the same as the rules on the debate stage." And from Georgia, students have become very hostile to opposing points of view, regardless of the topic. Any division now elicits anger and personal attacks. How do we help our kids sing about politics? How do we help our kids sing when there are these divisions between us? How do we help our kids sing about the creation that can be happening here among us? How do we help our kids sing about all the places in our society that we want them to see solutions instead of problems? I believe the answer is where you're sitting. Church. But a larger definition that we sometimes give to that church. Rowan Williams wrote an amazing book called Where God Happens. And in that book he said, it's a book about the desert mothers and fathers. People in the early centuries of the church that went out from the populated spaces in order to discover God. And one of those was St. Anthony of the Desert. And he talked about how what we do in those populated spaces, that sometimes getting outside of them helps us to see better. And he said, it's not about getting them, those others, signed up to something or getting them on your side. It is about opening doors to healing and to wholeness. And so far as you open such doors for another, you gain God in the sense that you become a place where God happens for someone else. You become a place where God happens. Is that an amazing statement? You can become a place where God happens. And you get to choose it with every single person. Because that person could make it so that you choose to not see God there, not let God happen. Or you can, even in the midst of whatever it is that is stinging your finger in the moment, you can allow that to be a place where God can happen again. Amy came to visit us a year and a half or so ago because she'd heard about some of this stuff happening here. She'd heard about border issues. And, from Virginia, you can hear about it, but it can be pretty insulating, that distance between it. She came here to be stung by that part of society. And from that arose a song. And so I'd like for her to sing to you.
Good morning. Yeah, it was a brief moment 2 years ago in October when I came here from Virginia. And I drove again this past week. It's a long way. Texas, it's really big. But this community was beautiful in welcoming me and a friend. And the one thing that I was left with was how broken I was, that people are seeking hope in a new life. And the desert is a harsh place, and they lose their lives. And so when I went back to Virginia, that was the part that I couldn't leave. And so this song came from that. It's called Desert Bones. There's a map of the desert. Everybody that's found is a mark on the paper, dotted red, covered ground. And I've more questions than answers, more doubts than certainties.
because you gave her a spot. You gave her a way to be able to hear and be moved by creation, by those desert bones. And you did it in different ways. Some of you, 2 years ago, gave her some money. Some of you came and listened to her sing and told your friends about that singing. Some of us traveled halfway across the nation with you in one way or another. And you get to keep doing that. This Friday, Amy's going to come and sing for us. If you'd like to, you can come and sing. You can come and listen. You can come and give her some money. You can come and, whatever way, pray and help her. Because you see, what happens is that not everyone has to do everything, but we should all stay connected in some way or another. This week I went over to University Medical Center to see Natalie, this teeny tiny baby. And I watched as they tried to put an IV in her arm. And it's a pretty tiny IV, and that needle looks really big. And there were 5 people, 6 counting me, surrounding that baby, each one doing something, because the nurse who was trying to put the needle in, Paula, didn't want to let go of it, and so she said, "Can you get that for me and put it here?" And someone else was standing up here and just cooing in her ear and saying it'll be okay, and someone else was doing that, and I was standing back going, I can't do any of that, and so I was just praying. But each person played part of the role that helped that small event to happen. That's how church happens. Last week, when I wasn't with you, I went to church. There's a big pink church called Susan G. Coleman. And I watched those crazy pink women walk through the streets of Atlanta. And the second day, I sat at the bottom of a hill in a nice shady spot, and the hill was all nice and sunny. And here these ladies walked down the hill, and you could see the exhaustion in their face because they'd walked 20 miles the day before and about 15 miles to that point. And all I said was, "You look fabulous." Because I couldn't do much. I couldn't make the 5 miles still to go away. But I could be with them in that moment. And I could cheer them on. And there were others that were doing that same thing in so many different ways. Some giving them something to drink. Others who were supporting them from home, praying for them. All kinds of people who each were doing something to help. In the United Methodist Church, we say it this way, that we help each other through our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness. And that in each moment, all of us take on one of those roles with each other, because how many know that you can't do everything that needs to be done? But you can be connected to everyone that is doing those things. And when you hear of someone who is doing a certain thing, you get to decide, does that call into you service? Am I going to do that same thing with them? Or is my role to give them some money so that it happens? Or is my role to be in prayer for them? Or is my role something different? What is the connection going to call out of me towards that thing and that person? How am I going to help that part of creation sing? This year is our Jubilee year. Last week we celebrated 49 years as a church. In Leviticus it says that when you have 7 weeks of 7 years, 49 years, then the next year is a Jubilee year. And everything will be set at liberty. How are we going to do that? What's our vision for this year and for those years afterwards? Who are we going to become during this, our celebration year? How will the trumpet sound says Leviticus. How will the trumpet sound from St. Francis and call us to become even more than we've been before? How will you help liberty to happen somewhere around you? How will you continue the song that St. Francis has sung so well and sing whatever the new song is? How will you hear that voice calling? What is calling us forward? How can we sing?